Harris County 911, what's the location of your emergency?
I just killed my sister. Oh my God.
Tell me what your name is.
Benjamin Elliott.
Okay, tell me exactly what happened.
I thought it was a dream. I took my knife and I stabbed her.
How old is she?
17, we're twins.
September 29th, 2021, 4:43 in the morning. The house in Katy, Texas is silent. It is a stillness that only exists in the suburbs before the sun rises. But inside the master bedroom, a phone line connects to emergency services, and a voice shatters that silence. It is a boy's voice. "I just killed my sister." When Deputy Parker arrives at the scene minutes later, he finds a 17-year-old boy, Benjamin Elliott, covered in blood. The boy isn't running. He isn't fighting. He is on his knees, performing CPR on his twin sister, Megan. As the deputy leads him away in handcuffs, promising to treat him with respect, Benjamin looks at the floor. He shakes his head, his voice hollow. "I don't deserve respect. I killed my sister." In that moment, the case seems closed. We have a body, we have a weapon, we have a confession. But in the world of true crime, a confession is usually the end of the mystery. In the case of Benjamin Elliott, the confession was only the beginning. Because Benjamin Elliott didn't just claim he killed his sister. He claimed he did it while he was fast asleep. And this is the story of a house divided, not by hatred, but by the terrifying architecture of the human brain. To understand the horror of that September morning, you have to understand the love that existed before it. Benjamin and Megan Elliott weren't just siblings. They were twins, born together, raised together, and tethered to one another by a bond that defied typical teenage dynamics. They were 17 years old. They lived in a modest 1,700 square foot home where the walls were thin and the family was close. Megan was the sensitive soul of the house. She had been diagnosed with autism. She was an artist who loved poetry and drawing, a girl finding her voice in a loud world. And Benjamin? Benjamin was her shield. Family, friends, and relatives described a dynamic that was almost heartbreaking in its tenderness. Drew Whitaker, a close friend of the family, told reporters that when Megan felt uncomfortable in social situations, she wouldn't just look for Benjamin. She would move to him. She would stand right next to him, shoulder to shoulder, using him as a physical anchor against the world. He was described as engineering-focused, smart, a little nerdy, but above all, he was her protector. Their father, Michael Elliott, a stay-at-home dad, watched this dynamic for 17 years. He saw a brother who took pride in keeping his sister safe. There was no history of violence, no police records, no secret diaries filled with rage. By all accounts, Benjamin Elliott was the last person on Earth who would harm Megan Elliott. So how does a protector become a killer in the span of a single night? The answer might lie in a gift. On September 28th, the day before the murder, Michael Elliott gave his son a present. It wasn't a video game or a new phone. It was an Air Force survival knife. It was a heavy, serious tool meant for the outdoors. Benjamin was, according to testimony, enamored with it. He was fascinated by the weight of the steel, the mechanics of the blade. He took it to his room. He kept it close. That night, the lights went out in the Elliott home. Benjamin went to his room. Megan went to hers. The house settled into its usual rhythm, but inside Benjamin's brain, a perfect storm was gathering. Let's peel back the layers of the investigation. When the police interrogated Benjamin, he didn't ask for a lawyer. He didn't stay silent. He tried to explain the inexplicable. He told Detective Freder Munoz that he remembered going to sleep. And then, nothing. "The next thing I remember," he said, "is the feeling of stabbing something." He described waking up in a panic. He was in his sister's room. The light was on. He was standing over her. He saw the knife in his hand. He saw the blood. He claimed that in his confusion, he tried to stop the bleeding with a pillow. He realized what he had done. He unplugged his phone and he dialed 911. "I stabbed her," he told the detective, "and then suddenly I wasn't stabbing her." To the detectives, this sounded like a convenient story. But Benjamin's defense team, led by attorneys who realized they were fighting an uphill battle, brought in a specialist, Dr. Gerald Simmons, a neurologist and sleep disorder expert. Dr. Simmons was skeptical at first. The sleepwalking defense is often the last resort of a guilty man. But then he started looking at Benjamin's history, and he found ghosts. This wasn't the first time Benjamin had wandered the darkness. His older sister Elizabeth testified that years earlier, she had found Benjamin standing in her doorway in the middle of the night. He was unresponsive. His eyes were barely open. He was there, but he wasn't there. Then there was the donut incident. At a sleepover, friends found Benjamin asleep on a couch, actively eating a donut. He was chewing, swallowing, performing a complex motor task, all while completely unconscious. Dr. Simmons conducted a sleep study on Benjamin. The results were chilling. Benjamin didn't sleep like you or me. He plunged rapidly into what is called slow-wave sleep. This is the deepest basement of consciousness. This is the zone where parasomnias happen. The defense built a theory they called the perfect storm. Factor 1, sleep deprivation. Benjamin was exhausted, which triggers deep sleep anomalies. Factor 2, the new object, the Air Force survival knife. Factor 3, automatic behavior. The theory was that Benjamin's sleeping brain, fixated on the new knife, triggered a motor program. He got up. He grabbed the object he had been obsessing over. He walked to the place he always went, his sister's room. And in a tragic short circuit of the mind, the protector engaged the intruder response, a realistic nightmare bleeding into the physical world. It was a compelling story. It explained the lack of motive. It explained the 911 call. It explained the horror on Benjamin's face. But there was one thing it couldn't explain: the phone. The state of Texas wasn't interested in brainwaves. They were interested in timestamps. Prosecutor Maroon Kutani presented a timeline that threatened to shatter the entire sleepwalking defense. Digital forensics showed that Benjamin was active on his phone late into the night. He was scrolling the web. He was conscious. Then there was a gap. Between roughly 15 a.m. and 40 a.m., the phone was locked. 20 minutes. The defense argued that this 20-minute window was when Benjamin fell asleep, entered that deep slow-wave state, and committed the act. But the prosecution asked a simple question: is 20 minutes enough? Prosecutor Kutani looked at the jury. He asked them to believe that in just over 20 minutes, a boy could fall asleep, plummet into the deepest stage of sleep, navigate a house, stab his sister 2 separate times with precision, wake up and call 911. It doesn't fit, Kutani told them. They had to make it fit. The prosecution brought in their own expert, Dr. Mark Pressman. He argued that sleepwalkers are clumsy, they are confused, they fumble. But Megan Elliott had 2 stab wounds to the neck. One of them was 4 inches deep, severing key arteries. This wasn't a clumsy accident. This was an execution. Pressman argued that sleepwalkers rarely commit violence unless they are provoked or restrained. Benjamin wasn't being held down. He walked into that room. He turned on the light. The prosecution painted a different picture of that night. They painted a picture of a boy who was awake, a boy who locked his phone, waited in the dark, and made a choice. They argued that the 911 call whispering, the shock, was a performance. He called 911 to set up his defense, Kutani said. He had to, because who else was in the house? The trial reached its climax not with new evidence, but with an appeal to the heart. Imagine being Michael and Kathy Elliott. In one night, you have lost your daughter, and the person holding the knife is your son. In most murder trials, the victim's family sits behind the prosecutor glaring at the killer. But in this courtroom, Benjamin's parents sat behind him. They testified for him. Kathy Elliott sobbed on the stand. There is no reason for Ben to want his sister dead, she told the jury. Michael Elliott, the father who gave the knife, broke down. He took the blame onto himself. He told the court that if he hadn't given that gift, his daughter would still be alive. They were begging the jury to see this as a tragedy, not a crime. But Prosecutor Kutani had one final card to play. In his closing argument, he didn't talk about sleep cycles. He talked about Megan. He told the jury that they had a duty. You have to be her hero, he said. You have to be the ones to be there for her, to stand up for her, to protect her. He stripped away the good brother narrative and replaced it with the image of Megan's final moments. Her last memory, he said, is being ripped out of her sleep, her brother standing over her, a knife plunged in her neck. The jury retired to deliberate. They had to weigh the science of the sleeping brain against the cold, hard data of the cell phone. They came back with a verdict: guilty. Benjamin Elliott, the boy who claimed to be asleep, was convicted of murder. But the story didn't end with the gavel, because the jury, the same 12 people who said he did it, did something extraordinary. They asked for leniency. The prosecution wanted 40 years. They wanted to lock Benjamin away until he was a middle-aged man. But the jury and the judge looked at this broken family. They looked at a boy with no history of violence. They looked at the parents who had already lost one child and were begging not to lose the other. The judge issued a sentence of 15 years. In the eyes of the law, 15 years for stabbing someone in the neck is a whisper. It is a compromise. It is the justice system admitting that while the verdict is guilty, the truth is much more complicated. Benjamin Elliott is 21 years old now. He sits in a prison cell in Texas. Does he sleep well there? This case leaves us with a terrifying uncertainty. We like to believe that we are in control, that we are the captains of our own souls, that we decide when to raise a hand in anger and when to offer it in love. But if the defense was right, if Benjamin really was asleep, then we are all just one bad electrical signal, one skipped night of sleep, one perfect storm away from becoming monsters. And if the prosecution was right, if he was awake, then we are left with a mystery even darker. Why? Why would a protector, a twin, a brother who was his sister's hero, decide in the silence of the night to end a life? There is no answer that satisfies. There is only the silence of that house in Katy and the voice on the phone that will never truly disconnect. I don't deserve respect. I killed my sister. You have been listening to All My Fever Dreams True Crime Shortcast. Thank you for listening, and see you in the next one.